Hello. It's good that you're here today as we look at assignment 29. And 29, I think a bunch of this is going to be new material for you. Maybe you did it, but I'm not really sure that you have. We're going to be talking primarily today about circles. And so I guess the first thing we want to do is, well, let's call it some bell work, and I'd like you to define a circle. Yeah, let's start with that. You define circle. So, yeah, thing about the definition of a circle is, if you say a round object, then I think you mean that. Circles have a very particular definition. Can't you say it's a circular object either? Instead, our definition of circle is going to be the set of all points equidistant from a given center point, and that center point we're going to call HK. Okay, so what's that mean? Well, it means if I've got this point here called HK, and I go a certain distance this way, and a certain distance this way, and a certain distance this way, and a certain distance this way. In fact, I go out to this one, or this one, or this one, the set of all points that are equidistant from a given center point. So that would be x, y. The set of all of those points is what a circle is, because all of these points in this shell are the same distance, which we call a radius, from the center point. All right, well, so now let's take that information and let's see about coming up with an equation for a circle. So we said that this was HK. This is any point on the circle, and that's our radius. Okay, so then what I'd like to know is, how do I label that ordered pair? Well, it's got the same x value as that one. And how do I label this y value? Well, the y value here is the same as the y value here. Okay, so then, like we did yesterday, or in the last video, what's this length going to be? It's going to be this minus this, x minus h. And what can we say about this side length over here? Well, that's going to be this minus this, y minus k. So, because I've got a right triangle here, I could use Pythagorean theorem and say that x minus h squared equals, plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And it turns out that that is the equation of a circle, where h and k are the center, and r is the radius. Now notice that this number here is r squared. So the radius isn't this number. This is radius squared over here. All right, so what are we going to do? Well, I'd like you to be able to, one, write the equation of the circle with the given information and graph it. Okay, so our first problem. The center is located at 0, 0, and the radius is 4. Okay, so I'm going to use my circle formula which was x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals radius squared. Okay, there's my h, there's my k, so x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 4 squared, or x squared plus y squared equals 16. That's the equation of the circle. Now, how will I graph that circle? Well, graphing that circle isn't that challenging for someone as talented as you. We start by plotting our center, and we go 4 in each direction. Negative 4, positive 4, up 4, down 4. And so there's our circle. Remember on your circles to label not only the center, but to give me those cardinal values as well. Okay? All right, now we know that they're not all that easy, so let's get a little more challenging for B. The center is at 2, negative 1, and the radius is 1. So remember, we're writing the equation of the circle, and then we're sketching it. So my general form for the equation of the circle, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So remember, this is h. It is an x value, but don't plug it in there. This is h, this is k, because hk is the location of the center. X minus 2 squared plus y minus a minus 1 is plus 1 squared equals 1 squared, or 1. So there's the equation of the circle. Now what about its graph? Well, I'm going to start with negative 1, and I'm going to go, the radius is 1, I'm going to go 1 in each direction. Here 1, here 1, here 1, here 1. And so there's my circle. Don't forget to label 2, negative 1, the center, and these cardinal points. 2, 0, 1, negative 1, 2, negative 2, and 3, negative 1. How did I find those? Well, if this point is 2, negative 1, then this point down here, I went down 1, so this went down by 1, but the x values didn't change. To get to this one, I'm going to add 1 to this y value. To get this one, I'm going to add 1 to this x value. And to get this one, I'm going to subtract 1 to get this x value. All right. Are you feeling like you can do this? Excellent. So, how about this one? C is negative 1, 2, and P is 0, 0. Well, so this is very interesting. I haven't been given a radius. I've been given the center and a point on the circle. So how could I go about finding the equation of this circle, negative 1, 2, whose center is here, and this is a point on the circle? Well, there's a couple of ways I would think about doing this. One way is to say that this distance is the radius. So if I bust out my distance formula and have 0 minus a negative 1 squared plus 0 minus 2 squared, I can see that the radius, that distance is going to be the square root of 5. So radius is square root of 5. And then because I know the center, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals radius squared. So x minus a minus 1 plus y minus 2 equals square root of 5 squared. And so I get x plus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 5. That's one way of writing the equation of the circle. Use these 2 points to find the distance between them. That distance is the radius, and then you can plug the radius in. The other way that students do this problem is they say, well, I know the equation of the circle is this, And I know that this is h and k, but since this is a point on the circle, that must be x and y. So 0 minus 1 squared plus 0 minus 2 squared equals r squared. And so I end up with 1 plus 4, 5 equals r squared, and so r equals the square root of 5. Now, I know that when I take the square root of both sides, I'm supposed to have a plus or minus, except here I'm not supposed to have a plus or minus because radius is always supposed to be positive. Okay, so will you do this one, where the center is located at 3, negative 2, and there's a point on the circle at 2, 5. Pause the video and please do this one. All right, well, welcome back. Yeah, I'm going to use that one where we plug values into the equation of the circle. So this is h and k and x and y. So 2 minus 3 squared plus 5 minus a minus 2 squared is r squared. I get negative 1 squared, which is 1. I get 7 squared, which is 49. And so I know that r is the square root of 50, which is 5 root 2. Actually, for this use, I want that, because really what I want is r squared. So I don't even need that. I just need r squared is 50. So then the equation of the circle will be x minus 3 squared plus y minus a minus 2 squared equals r squared, which is 50. Oops. So x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared is 50, the equation of that circle. All right, and then we come to this. The end points of a diameter are negative 4, negative 1, and 4, 1. Huh. Well, isn't that interesting? They've given me the endpoints of a diameter. Well, I've got 4, 1, and negative 4, negative 1. Okay, so what information do I need for the circle equation? X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. I need two pieces of information. I need to know where the center is. I don't know that yet. I need to know what the radius is. I don't know that yet either. So how am I going to do this? What can I do here? Well, what's the relationship between the center and its distance from this endpoint and its distance from that endpoint? That's right, the center is halfway between them. The center is the midpoint of the diameter. And because the center is the midpoint of the diameter, I can use my midpoint formula. Remember what that was? We're going to average the x's and average the y's. So our center is going to be at 4 plus negative 4 divided by 2, and 1 plus negative 1 divided by 2. And that turns out to be 0, 0. Okay, so now I have a center point, and I've got two ways of finding the radius. I recommend using the center point and one of the points on the circle. And the reason I recommend that is because when students find the length of the diameter and divide it by 2, wow, they make lots of mistakes doing that. So I wouldn't recommend that approach. I would recommend using the center and one of the points that was given to find the radius. Okay, so I know that radius squared will be 4 minus 0 squared plus 1 minus 0 squared. I'm just using the equation of the circle with these 2 points. This goes in for h and k because it's my center, and this goes in for x and y, any point on the circle. And so I end up with r squared equals 16 plus 1 is 17. Okay, so can we write the equation of the circle? Sure, if we know the center, we know radius squared. So I'm going to have x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 17. Or simply x squared plus y squared equals 17. Okie doke. Now it's your turn. The endpoints of the diameter are 4, negative 3, and negative 2, 7. Okay, please write the equation of the circle that has a diameter whose endpoints are 4, negative 3, and negative 2, 7. No, really. All right, welcome back. So I know that the center is the midpoint of these 2 points. So I'm going to find the midpoint of the x's and the midpoint of the y's. Okay, so my x's, that'll be 2 over 2, comma 4 over 2, which is 1, 2. So now I know my center. I also need the radius, and the radius is the distance from the center to either one of these points. So if I have my distance formula, I can do 1 minus 2 squared plus 2 minus 7 squared. That's going to be 3 squared, or 9. That's going to be negative 5 squared, or 25. So that distance is the square root of 34. Or 2, yeah, that's 2 times 17, so that's not going anywhere. 5, yes, yes. And that's the distance between the 2 points, which is our radius. Okay, so then the equation of the circle, x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals not this, because this is radius. We want radius squared, which means we have to square that, so we get 34 over 3. All right, well, I hope that's what you got. That will stead you in good practice for the next assessment we have, which I believe is a quiz for this unit. Well, now I'd like to go backwards. I'd like to say x squared plus y squared equals 25. Where's the center? What's the radius? And I'd like to graph this. So, A, B, and C. Well, I know the equation for the circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Where's our center located at? Well, I don't see any numbers in here, and that's because they're zeros. So my center must be located at 0, 0. Now, I see over here a 25, and over here radius squared. So I know my radius squared is 25. So what would the radius be? Well, I take the square root of both sides, and I end up with radius equals 5. And so for graphing this circle, I start at 0, 0, and I go 5 in each direction. That's all I have to do. Well, get the dots good. Labeling the center is also good. Alright. So, that's what we're doing when we go backwards. I'm giving you the equation of the circle. You're figuring out the center and the radius from that information, and then graphing. So, how about this one? X minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 9. Now remember, our circle formula has minuses. So where's my center? Well, center is H. So my center is going to be at 1, not negative 1. See that minus? There's a minus there in front of the H. There's a minus there in front of the H. The H is 1. But what about K? Well, there's supposed to be a minus here. So what value must K have so that I see a plus? Well, K must be negative 3. So if I plug a negative 3 in here, minus a minus 3 gives me plus 3. Great. And what about the radius? Well, we know that this is radius squared, so radius is the square root of that number, or 3. And then, as we graph, 1, negative 3, and I want to go 3 in each direction. So I'm going to go up 3, I'm going to go down 3 to 1, negative 6, I'm going to go left 3, which will be too far. I'm going to go left 3, which will be negative 2, negative 3. And I'm going to go right 3, which will be 4, negative 3. 1 plus 3 gives me that 4. 1 minus 3 gives me that negative 2. Minus 3 minus 3 is minus 6. And minus 3 plus 3, because I'm going up 3, will give me 0. So there's my circle. Okay. Feeling comfortable about going backwards? Okay, just in case, will you please do this one? X plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. Please find the center, the radius, and then graph this circle. Okay, welcome back. So I know the formula for circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. I see a minus here, but I see a plus here. So what value must h have? So when I plug it in there, that turns to that. So I know h is negative 2. And I see that k is 3. So negative 2, 3 is the location of the center. We also know r is the square root of r squared, and the square root of r squared here will be 2. So our graph then, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're at negative 2, positive 3. And I'm going to go down 2, negative 2, positive 1. And I'm going to go over 2, 0, 2, and I'm going to go left 2, which is negative 4, 3, sorry, that's a 3. And I'm going to go up 2. And if I go up 2, I get negative 2, 5. 2, 2, 2, yeah, that looks good. Well, I mean, looks kind of Arnold football head kind of good, but it's fine for us. Okay, I hope you got that. If you have questions about it, please let me know. And now we still want to do the same thing. We want to write the equation of the circle. I want to know where the center is and what the radius is to help me graph the circle. But I notice that doesn't look familiar. Well, it turns out that this that's standard form. And we've been practicing standard form all day. This is written in general form. And I have no idea how to graph in general form. No, I know you don't have an idea, but I also don't have an idea on how to graph in general form. Except I know a way of turning general form into standard form, and from standard form I can graph. And so, did you notice what we have here? We have number by itself over here, so I'm probably going to move that over. And here, this is a perfect square, right? And it's perfect square because I have two of the same thing. And here I have another perfect square. So I think what we need to do is completing the square. And not just once, but twice. I need to complete the square for this x stuff, and I need to complete the square for this y stuff, and I've got that minus 4 to deal with. Okay, so before we said completing the square 1, we want to isolate, and before we said isolate the x's, but here we want to isolate x and y stuff. So anything with an x or a y is going to be all alone over here. This guy has to move to the other side. X squared plus 4x plus y squared minus 3y equals 4. All right. The second thing, which we don't have to do in this problem, is to divide to get a equal to 1. We need that to be a 1, we need that to be a 1. And if they weren't 1s, we'd be doing some dividing. But they are 1s, and so we don't have to worry about it, we're good to go. Okay, so then 3, add the magic amount b over 2 squared to both sides. So when we add b over 2 squared to both sides, that's exactly the right amount that we need to add so that we can complete the square so that it becomes a perfect square and factors with two of the same binomials. So what does that mean? Well, in this problem, here's my b value for x's. So I want to add that number divided by 2 squared. If I add it to one side of the equation, I have to add it to the other side of the equation. Okay? So now I've got x squared plus 4x plus 2 squared. Okay? And then here, that's my b value. And so I want to add negative 2 over 2 squared. Well, that's negative 1 squared, so I'm adding 1 to both sides. And if I were to tidy it up on the left, I could say y squared minus 2y plus 1. And this could be plus 4. Now, this factors as x plus 2, and so we have x plus 2 squared. This factors over here as y minus 1, y minus 1. So plus y minus 1 squared. And then that equals 9. Now why is it 9? Well, we moved this 4 over. We needed 4 to complete that square, and we needed 1 to complete that square. 4 plus 4 plus 1 gave me that 9. And now I see that the center is located at negative 2, 1, and the radius is the square root of that number, or 3. So, completing the square. Now, I'd like to kind of go back to this step to offer those of you who are able to sort of process what I'm about to say. There's something that I'd like to, if you see it, encourage you to do. So, b is 4, and 4 over 2 squared is what I'm adding to both sides. Well, 4 over 2 is 2. So this is b over 2. And I'm not going to turn that into 4, though, because that number comes right there. And over here, I have negative 2 divided by 2, b over 2. That would be negative 1. And this number, I'm not going to square it. I'm just going to write y minus 1 squared. So I can say that this is 1, and then factor that trinomial. I can say that this is 4, and then factor this trinomial. It's just that when I'm done factoring, I'm going to get to these things, And I could have gotten to these things a lot faster if I had just taken these values, these b over 2 values, and put them in here. Okay, and that always works, which is why I'm suggesting you might use it. All right, so how about this one? 2x squared plus 2y squared minus 12x plus 4y minus 16 equals 0. So I want to get this circle into standard form, and then I want to determine the center and radius so I can graph it. Well, I know that I'm supposed to isolate the variables here. So the first thing I'm going to do is move that 16 over. And I think at the same time I want to consider grouping the x stuff and the y stuff for y. Good. Now I can't do the b over 2 squared thing yet because I haven't gotten these a values equal to 1. So I have to come back and divide everywhere by 2. So now I've got x squared minus 6x plus y squared plus 2y equals 8. Now I'm ready to do b over 2 squared, added to both sides. Here's my b value. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3 squared. And if I add negative 3 squared or 9 to this side, I have to add 9 to that side. I also need to complete this square. So that's my b value. And we said that b over 2, so 2 over 2 is 1. I'm going to add 1 squared to both sides, which is adding 1. And now, instead of saying that this is 9 and then factoring this trinomial, I'm going to go right to here. And y plus, because remember it's not plus, it's minus. Sorry, minus. That number goes right there. Plus y plus 1 squared equals 18. So from here I can see that the center is located at 2, negative 1, and that the radius is the square root of 18, which is 3 root 2. And then I should be able to graph that with not a lot of difficulty. All right, well, I think it's your turn to try this. Why don't you start with this one? X squared plus y squared minus 2x minus 8y plus 9 equals 0. Please find the center and radius for this circle. I'm not counting, I'm just saying welcome back. Because this would have taken you a while. X squared minus 2x plus y squared minus 8y equals negative 9. I group the x stuff, I group the y stuff, I move the not x or y stuff to the other side. My a values are equal to 1, so I don't have to do any dividing, but I do have to add b over 2a, I'm sorry, I have to add b over 2, so negative 2 over 2 is negative 1 squared, which means I'm adding 1. And here, b over 2 is negative 4 squared, which is adding 16. So, what do I have now? Well, this is now x minus 1 squared, and this is now y minus 4 squared. And because I added 16 and 1 or 17 to that negative 9, I'm going to have 8. So then the center is located at 1, 4. The radius is the square root of 8, which is just short of the square root of 9, which is 3, so a little less than 3. So how would I graph that? Well, here's 1, 4, the center. If I go left square root of 8, that's 1 minus root of 8, comma 4. If I go this way, it's 1 plus root 8, comma 4. If I go this way, it's 1, comma 4 plus root 8. And this one will be 1, comma 4 minus root 8. And actually this point is supposed to be a product. Alright. How about one more? X squared, no, okay. X squared minus 4x plus y squared plus 6y minus 12 equals 0. Okay, what'd you get? Well, if you haven't done it, go do it. Come back when you're done. Okay. Well, I'm going to move the 12 over. And these are already grouped. My b here is negative 4. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2 squared. So I'm adding 4. And my b here is positive 6 divided by 2 is positive 3. So I'm adding 1. So then this becomes x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 16 and 9 is 25. So I know my center is 2, negative 3, and the radius is 5. Okay, and you should be able to. Alright, well, I hope this was helpful and that you're more comfortable with the equation of a circle now, forwards and backwards. And let me know if you have any questions from the homework, which this time is a worksheet. You'll find that worksheet in our Office 365 folder under Assignments and Files within Assignments.